I said briefly like the top three stocks that or top five stocks that you're looking at right now. So one of them I know that we talked about is Carnival because you see a good like an upside in that, and that one's super low. So what else do you think?
I mean, the thing is, I'm looking at anything that's affected by the lockdown, obviously. And then I look at other factors. One of the big things that's going to affect cruise ships once they, start going again is the cost of fuel. Right now, the cost of fuel is ridiculous. I mean, I think I read a report the other day in Canada, a barrel of oil was minus $4 Canadian.
Oh, wow.
How do you have minus $4? I mean, what are they? They're paying you to take oil? Because I'll take it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's how messed up things are going with, the stock market and the economy, different things, different people trying to sell stuff, different people trying to get stuff out there. And I think the travel industry obviously is one of the hardest hit industries.
Right.
Companies like Carnival Cruise Lines, when I looked at that, I really liked it. Originally, I was looking at Royal Caribbean. Now I cruise all the cruise lines.
Right.
Royal Caribbean, when I first looked at it, was down about $18 per share. That originally started at $150 a share.
Oh,
so
wow.
A big drop. Now, at the time that I was going to buy in, unfortunately, I didn't. Silly me, always great on giving ideas, but not great on following through myself. Those shares were in around the $40, $46 mark right now. So you would have more than doubled your money in the last month.
That's crazy. So Vince Rossi, he's investing in some of the ones that you mentioned to him too, right?
Yeah, Vince and I talk quite a few times, and we're looking at different options. We're mainly looking at cruise lines are a good one because they drop so heavily because they're not running. They will get back there. They'll get back there. I mean, the one thing is Royal Caribbean got bailed out by a Saudi family to the tune of, I think it was $500 million or something like that. They pumped into them.
Oh, wow.
So these cruise lines are getting financing and stuff. And you got to think, well, they're not doing anything. They're not costing money. They follow their staff. Their ships aren't running on oil, gas. Their ships are just sitting there. So there's not a lot of money being lost while they're sitting there. They do have huge cash reserves. Worst case scenario, if they have to sell one of their ships in their fleet, some of those ships are over $1 billion.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
They're not gonna. I'm not worried at all about them not coming back and coming back hard. Other ones I did look at were airlines, of course. Airlines are a little bit trickier because the cheap buying airlines, you can look at your Spirits, Southwest, Frontier. Some of the small airlines, you have to be really careful because they might not be here in a couple of months.
Gotcha.
If you look at the bigger international carriers, American, United, Delta, they are solid investments. However, the rate of return or the expected rate of return based on your investment just, for me, doesn't see it's a solid investment, but it's not a big enough return for me because I want the money now.
I was going to say that's more of a long-term play once people are less afraid to go and travel and they lift some travel bans and all that. So yeah,
correct.
That can take a while.
Now, the hottest pick that I have, and I mean, I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not a stockbroker. I could be if I was. I'd probably be a good one. Like, Trump's not a doctor.
Sure.
I do read a lot and I do research a lot. And what I think the hottest possible investment in that industry right now would be Budget Avis Rental Car. So Budget Avis Group, a lot of countries around the world are saying the last thing that's going to start is international travel. So they're really pushing for domestic travel. So instead of taking a trip from New York to Cancun or New York to Hawaii, even though Hawaii is domestic, but those sorts of flights may not be there. They're going to push for people, if you're in New York, hey, go on a trip to California, go on a trip to Florida, go to the Carolinas, somewhere like that.
Right.
So once the planes are up and running, people are getting to these places, rental cars are going to be rented out again.
True.
Those rental cars are sitting at the airport right now. The nice thing about the rental car companies is they share a lot of their stock around from location to location, state to state.
Yeah.
And they also auction off a lot of their products. Rental cars usually, I don't know about you, last time I rented a car, it had 7,000 or 8,000 miles on it. The time before it had 12,000 miles.
Yeah.
They only keep cars for a certain inventory and then get rid of them.
Do you still think there's a market for rental car with Uber being around?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On family vacations and stuff. Okay, so let's say now, for instance, my vehicle would it get me from here to Florida? Absolutely. Would I like something more comfortable to drive? For sure. You know, if it's going to be something where you are at a location that you're going to need a vehicle for more than a day,
Sure.
a lot of business people out on the road, stuff like that, or if
Yep.
you're visiting, you know, if you're staying in Florida and you got a whole family and you got a baby and strollers and stuff to take to Disney, you need a minivan. You're going to rent a minivan.
Yeah.
Now, once again, with the cost of gas being so low, it's going to be better.
Sure.
They're going to make the money. And I think there's going to be a huge demand on rental cars when everything does open back up because people are going to need them. I think that, you know, the forecasted return for it, I mean, the rental car share, Budget Avis went from $53 in its best week in the last 52 down to, I think it's like $16 or $17 or something. You can see it, you know, I'd say by September, it'll be up to mid 30s or something. It may not be back to where it was,
Sure.
but it's still a good opportunity to, you know, get in early and double your
So
money.
how many stocks of budget rental do you have?
Right now, personally, I only have 20.
Oh, okay. So
I bought about $300 worth. Now, once again, I said I'm not a stockbroker. I'm not a rich guy.
Yeah.
But what I personally look at is I can sit here during this quarantine and do nothing.
Of course.
You know, I'm lucky. We're lucky. We work for a company that's still taking care of us and providing for us, and we're very fortunate with that. However, we're not making extra money.
Right.
So, you know, in one aspect, I look at it as I'm saving money, not working because I'm not putting gas in my car.
Right.
I'm not buying energy drinks and lunch and all that crap every day.
That's
I'm not going out for drinks after work, unfortunately.
Right. Right.
I see it as, even though I'm not making any extra money, I'm making a decent amount of money right now, and I'm lucky for that.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at ways that little bit of extra money that I'm not spending going out to a bar or going out. I mean, you and I both know we like to go out and have a bit of fun.
Of course.
If you take that money and just invest it and forget about it, pretend you're at the bar. You know, I just spent $100. You don't have to put a lot of money in. In 6 months, 12 months time, that $100 can be $200. And it's just money waiting for you to take back. Or it could go fivefold, and it could, you know, I mean, Carnival Cruise Lines, I have 50 shares in it.
Okay.
So, you know, I bought those at $12 a share, $600 worth of shares. So if it gets back to what it was, which is around the mid to high 50 mark, I'm getting over $40 per share. So that's a straight $2,000 I'd make just from that.
That's really when it gets to that.
and it's not a huge risk though. I mean, these businesses will come back. You know, it's like the restaurants, the bars, the nightclubs, the this and that. When stuff opens, people will go out again.
As long
as it drags on, it's just going to want people to go and do more and more and more. And believe me, cruise ships will sell out. Airlines will sell out.
So did you have a cruise already like planned when all this happened that you had to cancel?
I'm actually booked to go on the 8th of May.
The 8th of May?
Yeah, I should be going to the Bahamas on the 8th of May, and unfortunately...
Oh, they didn't cancel it or anything?
Oh, it's cancelled.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're cancelled currently right through until mid to late June.
Late June. Okay.
Yeah.
So are they just giving you the money back so you can book another?
Yeah. So my situation is a little bit different. I'm lucky enough to receive a ton of complimentary cruises.
Yeah. You had like 8 free cruises or something at one point.
All my financial responsibility right now is paying for the taxes and the port fees.
Right.
So the cruise technically is cancelled, but it hasn't cancelled because we haven't reached the 8th of May yet. As soon as the 8th of May comes around, they'll cancel it. And within, I think it takes like 30 days, something ridiculous like that, I'll get back my taxes and port fees, which honestly was $100, $150.
Okay, nice.
So not too bad at all.
No,
another thing that I thought of yesterday, you know, we obviously get non-productive when we sit at home, or, you know, some of us do laze around a bit and watch a little bit more Netflix than we should.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of ways that instead of costing me money sitting at home, how I can make money or, find ways to better myself. One of the things I did think of yesterday, which was huge to me, is 401k.
Yeah.
So 401k, what they call 401k over here in Australia, they call super, or short for superannuation. Like yesterday, I realized living in Australia, I have about 3 to 5 superannuation accounts or 401k accounts with different organizations. Each of those accounts could be somewhere from a couple of $1,000 to $20,000, $30,000, whatever. Each of those accounts I'm no longer contributing in. So I'm getting hit with administrative fees. I'm getting hit with this. I'm getting hit with that, to the point where a lot of these accounts start to eat away at themselves and you end up going negative rather than making money off the interest.
Gotcha.
So I'm looking at things like that. Like that's money right now that personally I'm throwing away.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get in contact with, there's a government website in Australia that you can get in contact with, and it's called Find My Super. It'll actually list all the companies that you currently have superannuation with, and I can contact them. And during the coronavirus thing, they're allowing people to take money out before the age of retirement.
Oh, wow.
So rather than having $50,000, $100,000 sitting in small increments in different accounts in Australia, I'm in the position right now that legally I can contact those institutions and have my money given back to me, whether it be just cash straight out, cash in, a transfer to my bank.
Do you have to pay taxes if you take a cash out?
You will pay taxes, but it is very minimal. It's, from what I believe, I don't believe it's how hard they hit you here, where you end up paying about 30 to 40% on an early withdrawal.
It's a lot.
I think fortunately they do have things in place. It works a little bit different. In Australia, you can't take loans against your 401k. It's kind of crappy. Also, they keep on raising the rate of retirement. It went from 60 to 65 to 70. I think in Australia now it might even be 75 years of age.
Wow.
I don't know about you, Evan. I'm lucky if I've got 10 more years of work left in me. I'm tired of working for other people now. I want my big break. So, I look at it right now. I'm looking at that money just sitting there. I can either try and get it out and roll it into my current 401k at work. Or, use it for things that I need. Because as far as I'm concerned right now, it's money that I've just left sitting there.
How did you originally start investing in those Supra accounts? Was that where you were like at some point working in Australia, and that's the only way that you can actually get a Supra is like working in Australia?
Correct. So it works a little bit. It works a little bit different in Australia. We all know over here Social Security is not going to last. The crappy thing is we pay into Social Security, we pay into unemployment, we pay into this, we pay into that. The government has a habit of, when times are tough, I will just take it out of this account and use that money to pay for other things, which, truly does happen regularly. So the biggest concern years ago was in Australia, they'll call it not Social Security, it's an old age pension. We're very politically correct in Australia. Old age pension. So in Australia, you get an old age pension when you're old. The Australian government was looking at it and they were saying, this is not really working. It's not substantial. We need to come up with a better way for people to take care of themselves and get away from government reliance.
Right.
So, going back 20 odd years ago, 401k or superannuation was pretty much mandatory in Australia. I'd have to look at the exact numbers, but I believe that your employer has to it's mandatory they'll pay X percentage of your salary. Oh, wow. So it's not a contribution from myself, like out of my pocket. So if I'm on $100,000 a year, your employer basically puts in $15,000. I believe it's 15% or 14%. They'll put in an extra $15,000 into your 401k.
But does that mean you only get paid then 85?
No, you'll get paid 100.
But then they put an additional 15 for you.
Correct.
But it's not out of your money.
Correct.
Interesting.
So, I had the last job I worked in Australia, part of my salary package was X amount as my salary, plus this is my 401k on top of it. So my total package was, A, B, C equals kind of like what they do here, but it's not your contribution. It's not you don't have to put in to match, so to speak.
Gotcha.
But I look at that, they're dead accounts right now. They're losing money, and they have lost money. I'm shame on me for not trying. I mean, I have tried to cash it in before. They basically told me, due to the laws, I would have to give up my Australian citizenship. Now, I'm a dual citizen, US and Australian, and I can tell you one thing, I sure as hell am never going to give up my Australian citizenship.
Sure.
And, people pay $1 million to become a US citizen or an Australian citizen. I ain't giving that up.
No.
But, with the current situation, with what's going on, they've relaxed those laws a little bit. And, so now my next 24 hours is going to be my job to try and get that money back and get it back into my hand so I can do something positive with it, whether it's invest in it or,
Sure.
paying off high interest credit cards or loan, trying to make the most of this time financially rather than just sitting there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Do you get, so since you're not contributing anything to it, it's diminishing at this point?
Yeah, correct. So some of them, now I've got a couple of years on you, Evan. So during the 2008 stock market crash, everyone was hit hard.
Yeah.
Myself included. I probably lost half of what I had invested. Since then, and since moving out of the country now, I lived in Las Vegas for 5 years. I've lived in Buffalo. I think this is my 14th year. So that's 19 years that I've been out of country. So for 19 years, nothing's been put into those accounts. Those accounts get administrative fees and upkeep fees and stuff. So with a couple of my larger accounts that I did have that I was concerned about, I moved them to what's called a cash account. It's probably the worst investment you could ever make, because basically what I told them was to sell off all my shares, change it to cash value. There's no fees for my upkeep of my account because there's no trade-in, but I'm pretty much going to make no interest on it, or very minimal interest.
Gotcha.
So it's really not going to grow, but it's going to save my money while I decide what I want to do. Gotcha. Unfortunately, that deciding's been 13 years, and now I know what I want to do. I mean, it's just a little bit hard working within two different countries.
Sure. So in a way, it's been nice that you've been off work so you can figure out what to do with your extra money.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have really put this much thought into it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, like everybody that's been off work, I spent the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I don't know what we're up to now, 6 weeks, probably about the first 4 weeks, thinking that any day I'm going to go back to work.
Yeah.
So I didn't dig deep into doing anything. I didn't have a plan, which is probably the worst thing. And I spent most of my time watching Netflix or playing Xbox.
Yeah.
The last week or so, and this week I've cracked down. I've started looking at ways. I've been looking at things like, we buy crap all our lives. We buy, I was looking at working in my basement the other day and organizing all my tools and stuff. And it's like, I've got 3 or 4 unopened good packages of drill bits. And it's like, why do I need 3 or 4 of them? It's one of those things where you buy it one day and then you don't use it. Then when you need it, you don't know where it is. And, and I'm looking at it yesterday and I'm thinking, this is dead money.
Oh, yeah.
This is money that, I sell those drill bits on Facebook Marketplace for $10 or whatever. It's $20 set of drill bits, but I sell it for $10. And then I buy a $10 share that could be $50 by September or December.
That's a good flip of your money for sure. There's so many things around your house that I heard once that you could look around your house and find $1,000 worth of stuff to flip on either eBay or Facebook Marketplace. Now, Facebook Marketplace, you got to be a little weird about because people are coming to your house, of course, and a lot of people don't want to be around you. But at the same time, if you have some dumbbells laying around, they're probably like 3-4 times the price that they're normally at. Tamika was trying to get like a 50-pound dumbbell weight, and I couldn't find one anywhere. I did stumble across like a 25 pounder, but people want like $75 for it. And it's just,
I saw 100 pound
demand.
People are nuts.
For sure. Yeah, man.
But you know, you look at dead money. Look at dead money sitting around. Look at how, you know, this is an extraordinary opportunity for a lot of people. If you know, there's smart people out there that have learned another language in this time.
Yeah, true.
You know, there's people that have started businesses or started, you know, different side ventures yourself with your podcasts and stuff.
Yeah,
stuff that you can do that's positive rather than, you know, watch movies all day.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing is not knowing. And, you know, for the first couple of weeks, it's, well, we could get called back to work tomorrow. This could be over next week. Who knows? We can't rely on government money.
No.
You know, the government's broke. It's, you know, this state's asking for about $60 billion in aid. And the problem is now they'll just want to keep us closed. They will wait until as long as possible, because the longer they're closed, the more they can claim financial hardship and get away with this and that. And the sad thing is government's a business, whether you're Republican or liberal, Democrat, conservative or liberal, it doesn't matter. We're all ruled by these people that are basically a business.
Yeah.
You know, government's a business, a hospital's a business, no different to Walmart. They're all businesses. They're all there to do the best for themselves.
Right.
They're not non-for-profits.
Right.
You know, if you look at New York State, all the leaders in New York State just voted in pay raises for themselves this year and next year. And you know, I worry that, you know, businesses aren't going to be able to sustain paying people what they're paying. People will lose jobs over this.
Sure.
But if anything, it should make us more aware of what could happen. I mean, if you ask around all your friends, how much liquid assets do you have right now that you could survive off if everything stays shut down at Christmas? I mean, if I asked you right now, Evan,
sure,
if all of a sudden you were laid off tomorrow, okay, and not paid, you had no more income coming in, how long can you survive off what you've got right now?
Well, okay, so say I get laid off tomorrow, I'll at least get my next check another 2 weeks from now, guaranteed commission for the last month. So I'll be all right for about a month. And then after that, I have, you know, I've taken more consideration to this since this whole quarantine, and I've done a lot more savings now than I've ever have, because obviously you want to be prepared in case this would ever happen again. And of course, I'm saving up to get like an apartment and then eventually invest in a house, probably a duplex, real estate, fixer-upper for investment. So for me, I would say I'm probably sustained for at least 5 to 6 months with the money that I have saved up right now, which is usually where you want to be.
I mean, that's really good, and it's highly unusual. Most people, the majority of people in this country live, and in most Western countries, live week to week or month to month. Most people right now, if everything was shut off, if, you know, there was no more unemployment, if there was no more, you know, if you weren't getting your paycheck and stuff, the majority of people in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, they would be screwed.
People definitely relied on that stimulus, Chuck. I'm glad I was one of the people that didn't have to. But the fact that we're still getting paid from Verizon and our guaranteed commission that we just heard for next month is a blessing for sure. And I'm not taking that for granted at all.
Absolutely. The big thing, though, with your stimulus check, I mean, how many people learn a lesson from this? How many people that, okay, so sure, there were people that haven't been paid in weeks or a month or whatever, that stimulus check went direct to paying their mortgage or paying their rent or paying for their groceries or their kids going to the doctor or whatever they had to pay it for. It was an urgent thing that they needed the money. How many people like yourself and me, or how many of those people out there took this $1,200, which is extra money, which is a bonus, which is a blessing? How many of them did something smart with it? And how many of them thought of, well, what if this happens or what if that happens, rather than oh my God, those new Jordans are cheap, or, you know, I'm going to get the newest Xbox game or set of golf clubs or something. You know, if you're in the position where you can survive if you lose your job and don't get unemployment and all that sort of stuff, and this, you know, people didn't get the $1,200 or they didn't get a stimulus. So, I mean, that isn't even a consideration. You know, because I was thinking most people that got the $1,200, in order to get it, you had to make under $75,000 a year.
Right.
If you made over $75,000 a year, you didn't get $1,200.
Right.
$75,000 a year is a lot of money, but it's not everything. You know, someone making $75,000 a year that loses their job or whatnot, they're not necessarily people with $1 million house and hundreds of thousands in the bank. How many people took this $1,200 and did something positive with it and safe with us, you know, safe, so to speak, like,
right,
you know, put it in the bank, invest it, make it work for you, because we've got to become less reliant on the government. We're going to become less reliant on even our employers.
Yeah,
you know, if everything stopped tomorrow, you should have minimum 3 months expenses on hand in cash.
Yeah, at least.
You know, that's all your utilities, your rent, your mortgage, whatever, your car payment, your car insurance. You know, you have to do that. And I hear a lot of people complaining, carrying on, and, you know, talking about how they need money and the unemployment and they deserve it and this and that. And they can't pay their rent. They say, oh, I shouldn't have to pay my rent because of the corona. But now you're getting an extra $600 a week, not a month, which may be your monthly rent, but you still find a way to say, oh, but I can't pay it.
Sure.
You know, it's important to stay on top of these things. It's important to have your money put aside and prepare. You know, you should always have a couple of months just in case.
For sure. And you could defer on your payments and your mortgage. I mean, for me, I can defer it. So like my monthly would be at the end of my lease if I couldn't pay for the next couple months, but I wouldn't want to tack that onto the end of my lease if I didn't have to.
Well, correct. I mean, I've spoken to several of my friends, you know, myself with my mortgage, I'm actually a month ahead. I always make sure I'm a month ahead because my roof over my head is more important than anything.
Of course.
I have spoken to some friends that deferred mortgage payments, and I've also know of some friends or some acquaintances that have deferred mortgage payments that are getting the unemployment. And it's like, you do realize that July, those 3 or 4 months you deferred are all due in one hit.
Oh, really?
That's the difference between, that's the big argument with rental payments. So if you're a landlord and you're in a decent financial position, and you're a small landlord, like a duplex owner or whatever, it's in your best interest to be a decent guy and work with your tenant.
Of course.
You know, a good tenant is hard to find. Now, if you've got a tenant that's a shit box and you want to get rid of them anyway, well, you can be a little bit tougher. Sure. However, if you're financially not hurting yourself and you have the ability to come to an arrangement with your tenant, it's the smartest thing to do.
Of course.
However, the tenant's responsibility is still, you know, it can't be, well, the government said, you know, you should be able to defer mortgage payments or rent payments and stuff like that. At the end of the day, that landlord still has to pay tax. They still have to pay property taxes.
Yeah.
They still may be hit on an income tax from the rental property, even if they're not getting that payment. So I say pay what you can, pay a little bit ahead, and if you can.
Sure.
And then when times like this happen, you're always in a better position.
Sure.
I really think it should wake people up. If anything, it should wake people up to a lot of things. It should wake you up to be more financially responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone can say that's easy to say. You know, oh well, you've got this, you've got that, your company's still paying you. But you know what? There's a lot of people out there that have got a good job or had a good job and have lived well, but they've been financially irresponsible. One of the saddest things is in school, whether it's Australia and I've heard here it's the same thing. One of the key things that they never teach you in schools is financial responsibility.
Right.
Not everybody goes to college and does, you know, economics classes and stuff like that. Sure. So a lot of people tend to, I want this new TV, I want this new car, I want this whatever. Spend it. I've got the money in the bank. But then something like this happens.
That's such a good point. I'm so surprised that there isn't because when I do my taxes every year, I used to go to a guy, but since I only have one W-2, it was never necessary for me to pay a guy to do it when I had TurboTax. But obviously, the questions that I'm answering on TurboTax are easy because it's just me. I don't have anybody I'm claiming. My mom doesn't claim me. I'm old enough, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like there should be a class in school that at least teaches you what those questions are that they're asking about taxes and everything related to what you can I don't know, get money off what you pay in taxes. I didn't even know for a long time, I wasn't even putting the interest that I was paying on my school loan in there. And I didn't know that I could get money off paying because I was already, those kind of things. It's just crazy how we're just not taught those because, school was meant for you to be a worker. So it just isn't.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's not, because schools these days tend to lean more towards getting people into college, not trades. They're steering people away from, the jobs that keep the country running. And quite frankly, they're the jobs that pay the most money. If you look around the world, I read a lot of newspapers all the time, and I know both here and in Australia and stuff like that, they have a lot of problems finding welders, carpenters, any sort of trade out there, because schools and colleges are pushing people away from them.
Sure. Yeah.
The sad thing is then is you go to college and you get yourself, and Evan, if you have this, I apologize, and I apologize to anyone that hears this, but you go out and get yourself a liberal arts degree. Okay. I have no fucking idea what a liberal arts degree is. You know what? I'm not even going to pick on that one. I'll pick on a criminal justice degree.
Sure.
I have at least half a dozen friends here in Buffalo that have a criminal justice degree. Why'd you get that? I was thinking of being a cop. Okay, when was that? Obviously 10, 20 years ago. Why didn't you become a cop? I decided I didn't want to do it. So you went to college and you spent, 20, 40, 60, 80, $100,000 to get a degree, and now you're working at Verizon. What was that $100,000 for? When it comes down to it, it's all planning. The funny thing you did say, though, with the taxes, the sad thing is it doesn't matter how many years you pay tax. It's still confusing to whether you're a 17-year-old or a 80-year-old. It doesn't matter. It's confusing because the laws constantly change.
Right.
I'm like you. I probably throw away a ton of money in taxes that I could claim back. The difference between, what the tax-free threshold is. So, is it better to do what the standardized deductions are, or then do individual deductions? But something like, people working from home right now, one of the things that they are capable of doing, and one of the things that the companies that employ them should be telling them, is you are now eligible as you're working from home to claim so many things on your taxes next year.
Interesting. Yeah.
You can claim, so let's say I have a 3-bedroom house and I dedicate one of the bedrooms to my home office. Yeah. I can then claim 25% of my heating, my electricity. I can claim, there's parts you can do, not so much your mortgage, but insurance and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of things that these people that can be claiming back that won't even think of it. So you're working home for 2 or 3 months. Your company's not providing you the electricity. They gave you the equipment, the electricity to run the equipment. That's costing you money.
Yeah, that's like claiming your gas when you're driving.
100%.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
100%, but a lot of people aren't going to notice this, realize this, even think about it, because it's not something that you're taught.
Sure.
It's not something that you come across
that
often.
If I was working from home right now, I would be logging everything that I was doing, and the time that I technically clock in, and what I've done that day, and what time I started working from home, just so that I could take it to a tax advisor at the end of the year and claim these last, 5 months that we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I, like you, I am a huge fan of TurboTax. It's quick and it's easy.
Yeah.
And up until a couple of years ago, I didn't have a hell of a lot of deductions. I'm a homeowner now, and I do have different investments and all that sort of thing. However, if I just claim the standardized deductions, I could be throwing away thousands.
Sure.
I just don't think of that. But, these are things in these times where, people should be thinking right now is what's not necessary. What can I get rid of? Do I need 300 channels of cable?
Yeah.
Do I need comprehensive insurance on my motor vehicle that hasn't left the driveway in 3 months?
Yeah.
Because right there, you could have saved yourself $300, if not more. What about my
look into? I don't even I have a lease on my vehicle. I think I pay $110 a month for my my insurance, which isn't too bad through Geico. But I'm wondering if I could call and see what I'm paying for that I don't need.
Yeah, I mean, and things like cable, cell phone, stuff like that. Little things you get that you're not going to need. You may have unlimited data on your cell phone plan, and now you're at home all the time and you have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You could save yourself $40 a month by dropping to a limited data plan or dropping off some of those features off your account. These are things that, had we spent time thinking about it, implementing these things, when something like this does happen, we're going to be in a much better place.
Yeah.
But I just worry that so many people after this, if it happens again, it's going to be crazy again. People, we need to learn from this. We need to learn.
Oh yeah, we definitely will. And I think we're going to have to, because there's a lot of stuff and we don't know exactly how this whole coronavirus is going to play out. I've talked to you several times about people getting it twice and a third time, and people saying that we're going to have to prepare and get vaccinations like the flu every year, around this, it could be around this time going forward. So I think we all kind of have to think about that. The one thing that I did before all this started happening was I did take money out of my 401k. I know you weren't able to do it with the money that you have from Australia, but I took a little bit of money out my 401k to pay off a big chunk of a loan that I had that was like $4,000. But now, I actually got that from Brandon Leroy, and him and David kind of sat down and figured all that out. I actually took my 401k and put it into bonds so that it was more secure and it didn't fluctuate with everything that got hit. And then I moved it back to stocks after, which was a good move. But that money that I was able to save now, and I don't have to pay interest on that loan anymore. Now I'm just paying out of my regular hourly check at Verizon every 2 weeks. It just goes right back into my 401k as if I'm just putting extra into it now. So
just paying yourself back.
Yeah, I'm just paying myself back. It was the smartest thing ever. And I never even thought to take a loan out until me and Leroy looked at that. But that's why I was able to save up a good amount of money during this downtime of us not working, because like you said, I don't have any extra expenses, and I'm not paying for food and lunch and stuff at work and driving gas around. So that's pretty much it. Every once in a while, Tamika will have to drop off some application to some kids that she's trying to get involved with Job Corps with her new job, which is actually jobs like trades. So that's kind of interesting.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so I think I've made some pretty solid moves as far as money goes, but I've always been taught that comes from my grandparents. So
absolutely. I mean, that's what you did was the smartest move. I mean, if you look at what most people don't know, if you open up your wallet, and you look at your credit cards, can you tell me the interest rate on every single one of your cards?
Well, I don't have any more, but no, most people probably can.
But most people, if you look at Credit Karma and those sorts of things, you look at credit ratings, the more credit accounts you have is actually better for you, because it shows a credit history. Whether it's not so much having money on them, but it goes up to 21 accounts is really good with your credit.
Yeah.
So let's say I open up my wallet and I've got 21 credit cards. Now, I don't have 21 credit cards, but I do have quite a few. I have my credit cards and I shuffle through them. I can honestly tell you, I have zero idea what interest rates I'm paying on which one.
Sure.
Every month I don't look at any statements. I just get online. I pay my credit card payment.
Sure.
I'll pay the minimum payment. Sometimes I'll pay a little bit more. But if you take the time, you sit down, you look at this, if you're paying minimum payment, it's going to take you 20 years to pay off, and it's going to cost you 10 times more than what the credit was with some of the cards. So rather than paying off a bit extra on every card, look at the cards with the highest interest rates. There's cards out there with like a 27% interest rate, not me personally, but some people have them. If you go 27% interest rate on a credit card, but you can pull out $5,000 from your 401k to pay that off,
it's way better.
The 401k you do pay interest on, but you're paying yourself.
To yourself. Yep.
You're paying yourself.
Yep.
So even if it's, and it's not 27%,
like 4,
it's like 4%.
Yeah.
So you've just eradicated a ridiculous expense that you're paying that you have absolutely no need to pay.
Right. And no chance of paying off.
No chance of paying off. That's why we're broke. That's why, I hear a lot of things about, it's bullshit. The 1%, the millionaires, the this and that. They're millionaires because they think about this.
They do.
They spend time thinking about this. They're fiscally responsible. They look at what they spend, where they're spending it, why they're spending it. Is it worth spending? And we all have the ability to do much better in life and be in much better financial position and a better position overall in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
If we took the time and educated ourselves, and it all comes back to, educating yourself and using time productively.
Yeah. The only time I opened up a credit card was when I wanted to get some bonus, like whether it's travel in the first 90 days, because there's some bonus that you get. And then maybe it's no interest for the first year. But if I ever racked it up using it for maybe like concerts and stuff that I shouldn't, and I just was paying for a ton of people and having them pay me back, but I didn't put it towards the card and I used something else, that's like the classic way of how they rack up. And
it's the best ever. Yeah, give me the money and I'll put it on my card, give me the cash, and guess what? That cash goes out of my pocket and goes somewhere else.
Exactly.
It's free cash.
It doesn't go to the card. Exactly.
I don't know.
So at the end of the day, like I usually, if it gets up to a good amount and then I get a message or something in an email about like a JetBlue card having an interest rate on it now that's actually hitting because I didn't pay it off in time, I usually would just do a balance transfer. But every time you open up a new card that hits your credit, takes a little bit for your credit to come back. And
I mean, ideally though, you want to have multiples out there. You want to have a good amount of open credit lines that you do use the cards, $100 here, $50 there, $20 there. Keep that credit line active because you want that demonstrated ability or the demonstrated history of you paying back. And that's what's going to raise, it's going to give you a small hit for an inquiry. I believe it's 2 in 24, they say.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want more than 2 hard inquiries in 24 months. However, approved hard inquiries aren't bad.
Gotcha.
So if you go and you apply for a card, you get the card. Yes, it's a hard inquiry on your account, but then that spend limit or that available credit limit on that card raises what your credit availability is, and thus raises your score as well. But again, this is something they should teach you in school. I think one of the saddest things is you have credit agencies in this country that dictate whether you get a job, whether you can buy a house, whether you can rent a house, whether you can rent a car. These people are basically like God with how you live your life. The unfortunate thing is these are independent companies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the government. It's not it's not a fair, in my opinion, it's not a fair representation of your creditworthiness or your abilities in life. Because they can put anything on there. You could go to urgent care and you pay your copay, and you have health insurance, you pay your copay, and then urgent care sends something to your doctor, or they send something to urgent care, your insurance sends, or urgent care sends something to your insurance says, well, we've already paid it. They try and bill you. Next thing you know, you've got something in collections, and this has happened to almost everybody I know at work. At some point in their life, they've had a medical bill for something stupid. It could be $50, $200, something ridiculous, but they have a medical bill that's gone into collections and affected their credit rating. And, it's sad because that can ruin you for the rest of your life. That can stop you from getting the car or the house or something like that. Yeah. But I do think it's pretty rough that they use these independent companies that can basically make or break you in life.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to, with credit and stuff, teach credit in school, teach total financial responsibility.
Yeah.
We put so much emphasis on healthcare, or health in general, or they try to, get kids healthy, get kids to do this, a healthier life is going to lead to a longer life, but they don't talk about a healthy financial life. And the sad reality is I am convinced that the coronavirus, as deadly as it is and horrible as it is, and how many lives it's taken, and it's random. It's not targeting one age, race, or religion. It can hit anybody. But I honestly do think that the death toll from the aftermath of this is going to be a lot higher than what the actual coronavirus took. And when I say a lot higher, way, way higher. People that are going to be financially destitute after this, people that have lost their business, lost their house, stuff like that. That is where I see what the biggest problem is right now.
Yeah, we're in a weird time. A weird time that we've never dealt with before. So how things are going to kick back is kind of hard to predict. We can predict it and try to make the right investments like we were talking about to get on the upside of it. But the people that it affected directly with their jobs, who have gone to get unemployment, that for some people is actually paying them more than what they were actually being paid through unemployment, which is kind of nice for sure. Some people get lucky that way. But yeah, the best thing you can do is just try to save up and, actually spend more time with your family and, do these Zoom chats and, chit chat, stuff like that, house party, any of them. So that's what I've been doing. So I'm just going to
don't hate.
No, and don't hate. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. This has taught me a lot. One of the things that it has taught me is don't hate. When I say don't hate, don't be jealous of your neighbor.
Right.
Don't be, if they manage to buy a house and a couple of nice cars and a boat and stuff like that, don't hate on them. Blame yourself for not putting yourself in a position where you could do that.
Yeah.
And having said that, don't hate on people that are in a less position of you.
Right.
Live for yourself. Think for yourself, be nice to others, but at the end of the day, your responsibility is you. The difference between these people that are millionaires and these, people that are not, is a lot of them have taken chances. And as far as the economy being shut down and businesses being closed right now and stuff like that, I honestly think we need to reopen. I think it needs to happen now. I think that, hospitals are at a staffing level that now they can handle it. We've got hospitals closing because they're not doing elective surgeries because of all this. It's pretty hard for a hospital to stay open. You can't charge $50 for a Band-Aid because they're not doing elective surgeries. I think that the longer you keep it shut down, it's going to be a way bigger hole. And we need to move forward. We need to open up. If you're at risk, if you're young, if you're elderly, if you have an immune situation, stay home.
Yeah.
And by all means, don't hate those people that stay home. Don't be angry at them. I'm not upset at people. If you think that your situation is better for you to stay home, absolutely. If in some way you can still get unemployment or you still get paid or whatever, you know what? That's your business. I think we spend too much time worrying about what everyone else is doing. And you see that with the back and forth arguments on Facebook, whether we should open up or close. People will say, well, you're selfish. If you want to open up, you should sign a waiver saying you get no health care. Well, sure, you can say that. At the end of the day, I pay for health care. A hospital's a business. I pay for that service. It's not an entitlement. It is an entitlement. It is mine because I pay for it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying I want to put a burden on the health system, but I'm saying that, say I tested A positive, so I've had it, I'm ready to go back to work. You know what I mean? How many people are ready to go back to work that have been tested positive that can go back into the workforce? Now, have the restrictions in there, have social distancing still there. It's going to change. This is going to change everything from here forward, not just a month or 6 months now. We may find with air travel now you have to wear masks. We may, people may never shake hands again. It's funny, Donald Trump was talking and, you know me personally, I support a lot of things that Trump does. I don't support everything he says, I think that a lot of his policies, I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm about the economy and money and way of life. I think a lot of things he's done is right. And one of the things he was talking about on stage was, we've got to look at the way we live, shaking hands. He said, I was never a big handshaker. I never really liked it. He said, being president, it's part of your job. You got to go around, shake hands and this and that. And he said, but that might be something that goes away. He says, maybe we won't shake hands anymore. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I mean, how he talks, but he says, maybe we won't. The next day, news articles around the world, Trump demands handshaking banned and all this sort of stuff. Things are going to change. Things are going to be a little bit different, right? But I think we can safely move forward.